Hello, everyone. What's up, and welcome back to the Capital Stack. So we have an amazing show for our listeners today. I'm super excited to introduce and to feature our guest, who has a unique background, and I'll kind of let him dig into what his background is. But I think you guys will be really excited to sort of hear his journey and to dig into how he got to where he is today. So our guest today is Yannik Cudjoe-Virgil. He's the principal of Merlynn Acquisitions, which is a Baltimore-based real estate investment and syndication firm with 5.8 million in assets under management. His experience in commercial real estate began as an asset manager by trade for both retail and institutionally capitalized real estate private equity firms with over $1.5 billion in assets under management. So very good experience there. And at the firm, he oversaw multidisciplinary portfolios, so multifamily, mixed use, office, retail, industrial properties all over the country. So just a real broad experience there, but with a firm that has a very solid position in the marketplace. Prior to real estate, Yannik played in the NFL. So very, very cool background. We'll hear more about it. He played for the Tennessee Titans. He holds a BS in kinesiology from University of Maryland College Park, which is kind of just in the backyard of where I am here in DC. He believes that cash flow is the key to creating a life by design and on your own terms. I really like that because that I believe is super important. Cash flow is king. So, all right. So with that, welcome to the show, Yannik. Happy to have you here. Happy to share your story and your mission with the world. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show today. So, my backstory again, former NFL player, played for the Tennessee Titans. Um, Unfortunately, I had a knee injury that I had to walk away from, and it was one of those things where I lost my identity. I didn't really know what I was going to do next. Um, but fortunately, when I was rehabbing my knee, I picked up this book. You probably already have read it. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it was at the right time because literally a month prior, I spent about $20,000 in the off season, and that's just in 1 month, and I really didn't know what I spent it on. And I said, I don't know if I would be able to get back on the field. At that point of time, I had about 3 surgeries in the past 3 months, and I knew that I needed to do something. I didn't know what I was going to do if football ended, but I knew that I wanted to do something. And so I ran into someone that did commercial. He introduced me to the world of commercial real estate. And I found that commercial real estate was a perfect opportunity to generate wealth through real estate and just leverage a lot of the same tools and skills that I've developed in the NFL in real estate. So um, perfect time for me to pivot and get into the space in which we are investing in today.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that, and we'll kind of dig into some of the elements of that. And in that last bit that you mentioned, I think is really important because you never know what can sort of trigger a pivot in someone's life, and it could just be you encountering someone who is doing something that interests you, that maybe piques your interest, and then you begin to sort of pick up what you can from that person and maybe even model what they're doing. So, and can you talk a bit about the person that you mentioned there that was already in this space? So what did you get from them, and kind of how did they maybe inspire you to say, okay, I want to do what they're doing?
Yeah, so oddly enough, and I'm not a hockey fan, but I was at a hockey game and this guy was sitting behind me, had a nice watch on. I complimented him on his watch, and he said he did commercial real estate. And wanted to get his contact because again, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and I was interested in just real estate in general. And so he took me on a tour to a couple of his commercial projects. And at that point, I didn't know anything about commercial real estate. He showed me the offering memorandum and, just introduced me to the world of commercial real estate. I walked another one of his properties, and he did what's known as today as adaptive reuse. He bought a building for 10 million, gut renovated it, and it was going to be worth 19 million. And I said, wow, that's a huge spread. That's not bad at all. And I just honestly just got the bug after that. It's real estate is one of those things where I like to say you have a double bottom eye effect, and that's income and impact. and being able to create that generational wealth and also impacting other people's lives. Perfect, perfect business plan there.
Oh yeah, man. I like the way you put that, income and impact, and I agree. It really is, one of the rare spaces where it's just a win all around. You get to create and improve assets. That adaptive reuse is something that is a really big deal, especially in highly populated and very dense submarkets where you have these structures that maybe are obsolete, functionally obsolete, but then you have someone that can go in and say, I think I can maybe create something here that's of better use for the folks here. And so there's a win for the community. There's a win for the people who might reside in the asset. So the people, and also for the people who are around the asset, because just the values go up. And then certainly, if you're on the depending on the side of the deal that you're on, then you naturally there's some value created for you as well. So and it also sort of feeds these other jobs and ancillary sort of support functions that are super important in the business. Some years ago, I had a conversation with an operator. He's actually a fund manager, and what he called it was the revenue. I think he called it the revenue octopus or something like that, where where you basically can reach out and touch so many different drivers of revenue and creators of value, all built around sort of this focus of investment, real estate investment.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's really
100%. I think that's the beauty of it, is just being able to build a business that has vertical integration as well, tapping into different resources. Different economics from a property management perspective, construction, leasing, a whole bunch of different revenue drivers that all fit into your real estate business. So that's something that we're working on right now, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so let's talk quickly about your experience, right? So your journey naturally, you've made it to a level, you're at a level where so many people fight to get to, and you were there, and then to have an experience where where you get injured, and then you have to turn a negative into a positive, really. And
Yeah.
hey, the bottom line is a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people can't do that because it is overwhelming. So you're already facing a ton of pressure when you're at that level, and then also to sort of have that change be brought upon you. Then now you are faced all kinds of pressure, which is even, I'm sure, that self-imposed pressure, right? I'm sure you're going through something. So can what occurred? Sort of, what was the mindset shift for you that said, what, I'm going to turn this around and not let this defeat me?
Yeah. And the professional sportsman is definitely a lot of pressure, specifically for people who are trying to make a name for themselves. I mean, you've worked your entire life to get to this stage, and you don't want to mess it up, right? Because there are literally millions of dollars on the line. That's generational money. And I like to tell people, imagine, like, in the NFL, Thursdays are days off, right? So imagine in the corporate life, you have 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 people every week coming in to take your spot.
Wow.
Like, imagine that. Imagine the mental pressures that you would have in a cubicle, right? If you see people coming in interviewing to take your spot, right? Just think about that. That's crazy. I mean, you'd go home with anxiety every day. And so for me, it was dealing with that pressure because we had a lot of organizational changes that that was happening. We had a new GM, and when I got injured, it was one of those things where it's like, what's next? And again, fortunately, I'm so happy that I was able to, touch that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. But the transition was definitely tough because I wanted to learn the game at a high level. Same thing that I used in the NFL in professional sports, I wanted to apply that in real estate. And so for me, it was finding people who were in my area doing things at a high level and maybe go work for them, right? Because I always like to say education is the best form of currency when you're getting into commercial real estate. It's not like residential where it's, you see house, buy house. Commercial real estate is much more deep. It requires a team, a whole bunch of different aspects to the game. And so it was tough for me trying to get a job because I didn't have any finance background, right? I went to school for kinesiology because I thought that I was going to play in the NFL for 10 years and then retire and then just
Mhm.
own a gym and just retire off into a sunset, right? I used to like working out back in the day. And so yeah, that was my mindset. But when again, you mentioned the pivot, right? Being able to adapt to your circumstances, it wasn't necessarily easy, but for me, it was just trying to bet on myself, trying to refocus the same energy and talent that I've been able to mature in the NFL, the same character that I have as a person that the game has allowed me to build on. I try to devote that and just redirect that energy into real estate. And so that's a little bit of how we got to where we are today.
That is super powerful. Like taking, so you've taken the same winning mentality, you've taken the same level of energy and passion, and said, I'm not going to lose that. Instead, I'm just going to, it's you're just converting it, and you're using that same level of focus and passion, but
Yeah.
applying it to just a dip something that you're now interested in moving forward with. And
Yeah.
again, I just, I don't know if you've heard it before, but I'll tell you that that is something that requires a level of maturity and perspective that not everyone has.
Yeah.
And I applaud you. I think that's a very powerful thing to do because people who haven't even gone through sort of what you've had to deal with struggle with that. I've
Yeah.
struggled with that. And I certainly have not been at a level where I had so much at stake, financially, and then had to make an adjustment. And even I've had to struggle with, man, I walk around and I sulk and I get,
Yeah.
I feel sorry for myself, but to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to, fall backward. I'm going to move forward and apply that passion to something else. So I applaud you. I think that's very respectable.
Yeah,
Um,
and a lot of truth be told, a lot of NFL players or just professional athletes struggle with the transition,
yeah.
right? And that's why you see a lot of players go to coaching because that's the quickest, that's the easiest route for them to feel some sort of normalcy, right?
Mhm.
And so that transition is hard. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was easy for me to just pick up my entire life and then just pivot it into real estate. But, you try to take it a day at a time and rely on different resources and just have that faith that, there's a different plan for you in the future.
Yeah. I think faith is super critical in this. And I'll also say that, you mentioned, kind of complimenting the person who was actually the catalyst for you getting to where you are, and then sort of networking with that person. And so I would say to the listeners that, regardless of what side of this business you want to be on, networking is super powerful. It's something that you really don't even understand sometimes how powerful it is because we always hear people say your network is your net worth, and yeah, I don't know about you, but it took a long time for that to really connect with me because I felt like people were just saying it, it just sounds good, it rhymes, but
Yeah.
but the truth is that is really the case, and once you
Yeah.
connect with people, it really can propel you forward into something that you just never would have had access to before. It's
Yeah.
proximity is power. That's another one that is very true.
Yeah, yeah, no, I always have this thing in my head. It's like you're only one person away, right? You're only one opportunity away. You're only one this away. You're only one that away, right? And if you have that train of thought in your mind and you really believe in that, I think that you should definitely be out here networking because you just never know who you might meet that might be, a big investor for your company or who might bring you a deal or who might add value to your business. And so, I'm always up for networking. And the one thing that I always do too is just take the meeting as well too, with people who are trying to, to get to know me. I'm trying to get to know them. And it's all about networking in this business.
Oh man, that's incredible. And let's talk about that for a minute because in my mind, your ability to network also sort of is connected to having a strong brand, right? Because I mean, nowadays the first thing that people are going to do is they're going to look you up, and
Yeah.
and so the extent to which you can sort of leverage and take advantage of that new connection, it does depend on the strength of your brand. And you have a strong brand, and so I'd like to ask you kind of what are your thoughts on that? How can someone sort of make sure that they have the kind of brand that they want to project to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I think for me, it was a lot of, there was some changes I wanted to do with my brand. I didn't want to just be known as Yannik, the football player, right? I wanted to be known as Yannik, the real estate investor and syndicator. But yeah, he did play some football too,
Right,
you know?
right.
And so I think when it comes to brand building, it's just putting yourself out there, right? Having that, showing up consistently, allowing people to see inside of like who you are as a person, what you're doing, and then just showing up every single day. And I think over time, people are going to have that opinion, or have that perception rather, that you are the industry, specialist on this, or you are the real estate guy, you are this guy, or you are this woman, right? I think when it comes to brand building, it just comes down to consistency. And if you continue to stay consistent, I've been able to see great results with people, even on LinkedIn, right? Just posting on LinkedIn, people will just randomly text you, hey, I saw your LinkedIn post. What do you think about this video? And so little things like that, I think, add a lot to basic brand building in the real estate industry or in general.
Yeah, agreed. I think consistency is very powerful, and certainly for in this business, LinkedIn does appear to be, I mean, just a super platform in terms of getting your word, getting your brand and your message out there to people who are going to take action. And I would say that even for passive investors, putting that out there, that you keep an eye on the market and that you have an interest in different opportunities. It can sort of let people know that, okay, this is what this person's looking for, and these are the types of opportunities that interest them, and people will reach out. Because
Yep.
before I started to invest in this space, I had never seen a deal, and then certainly now that I'm in this business and have made it known kind of what I'm looking for and what I do, I get deals all the time, and so. It really is just about putting out there what you're looking for and being a good asker is one way
Yeah.
to put it. So I think that so you mentioned Rich Dad, which for me was also just pivotal. I always tell people that book has so many gems, and it does appear to sort of strike different people in different ways, and there may be different things that people take from it. For me, it was sort of the model in I think I forgot the name of it, but it's basically the model where he shows how wealthy people live from the income that their assets produce, as opposed to, how kind of the middle class might live, where they use their income and then they invest and maybe save with what's ever left over kind of at the bottom.
Mm.
And so, but what's interesting about the book is, in terms of how it's written, that people will criticize how it's written and ignore the message. But I just feel like that message is so powerful and pivotal. And so maybe what's something that kind of just stuck out to you? I mean, it could have just been the whole book, I'm not sure, but just what triggered something in you to say, okay, this is of interest to me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, I wanted the same amount of freedom and the lifestyle that I've had in the NFL outside of the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've never met anyone on this earth that said, "Hey, I don't want financial freedom," you know? And so, like, when I read that book, this whole concept of like cash flow and just having that financial freedom and having enough assets to pay for whatever you want, it just made sense to me. It was, I'm a very logical and just systematic type of guy, right? If A plus B equals C, then I'm going I'm going to do
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of just made sense. Like, just get the assets and get the cash flow, and you can get this end result. It was like this perfect roadmap. It just made so much sense. And so I just had to go out there and just find a playbook of how to actually do it. And so that just came with education. But I think the biggest thing from that book that I really love is just the cash flow aspect of just being able to create a life by design, because I think everybody deserves the ability to do that. And we have different issues and around the world that don't necessarily afford everyone that opportunity. But I think if you just continue to work hard, find ways to just make it happen, I think anyone can create financial freedom over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that term, that phrase, "life by design," is powerful because it really is. a concept that once you grasp it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, the reality is you can design your life, and it is the where we are now is usually a result of the actions and the steps that we took, you know, before. And so, you know, you don't have to live the next, you know, 6 months the way that, you know, we've lived the previous 6 months. And so you really can change. And I just think that designing your life, making the decision to say, I want to be here. And so these are since I want to be here, what I was doing before might not get me to where I want to be. And so I need to make a change. You know, these things don't just happen. You know, it requires action. It requires, you know, and that's certainly something that for you that, like you said, I mean, you know, being a former athlete, you very much intentionally had to do things to push forward and to, you know, to make sure that you were in the type of shape and things like that so that you could perform. So those things don't just happen. You don't just wish it to happen. You have to actually take some steps. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about education, because you mentioned that a few times. How can a passive investor maybe educate themselves on this business to make them a little more comfortable with it, right? Because the ask sometimes for the in these deals can be significant, and so, you know, how can they educate themselves to where they feel comfortable a bit?
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of YouTube University. I'm not ashamed to say it, because you can literally Google anything and look up anything almost on YouTube, right? If you want to be a plumber, I guarantee it's probably a few videos on like how to be a plumber on YouTube, right? And I think that's a great way to just immerse yourself in just education. There's a ton of information out there online about real estate investing, specifically passive investing as well, and also what to look for in your operators. And I think if you just leverage the free content that's out there, at least that can provide some sort of stem or some seed in your mind that will be able to grow into something that you would be able to take action with, and find different operators in your market and talk to them and see what they're doing, and just kind of pick pick from different, you know, people in your market to really create this holistic like knowledge base within the industry. I think that's a really good approach.
Yeah, I think so. And you mentioned it's free, you know, and so I mean, to me, it's one of those things where it's time that you're committing, but the return on that little bit of time is significant. And so, you know, podcasts are another good one. You know, you can do podcasts, YouTube. Udemy is another good one where they have, like, you know, online courses that are inexpensive. And yeah, I just think that there's so much information out there to where, you know, if you're looking forward, it's there. It's just it's a matter of seeking it out. So let's talk a bit about kind of about what you're involved in now, and what your process is. What's your approach to sort of analyzing a deal, and, you know, just what's your workflow, I guess you can call it, to getting your mind around whether or not this is a good potential deal?
Yeah. So for us, it's mainly about risk mitigation first and foremost. You know, we have a good idea and strategy of like what we want to accomplish based off of the fundamentals that are in the market, specifically residential housing, as it relates to the housing crisis that we're in today, as it relates to the multifamily product that we look for, the markets that we look for as well. You know, we know that the fundamentals are out there. You know, there's no secret that multifamily is a great investment to do. We just need to focus on the risk mitigation strategies, right? And focus on, you know, where's the execution risk in our deal here? You know, is it the interest rate? Is it the construction? Like, what is it? Because we know that the underlying asset, you know, is probably a good deal if it checks the boxes from a location, you know, all the basic fundamentals that go into multifamily in today's environment. But if we just focus on the risk mitigation strategies, we know that everything else would work itself out. And then the second thing too is always your team, because the jockey is more important than the horse. You know, if you have a good operator that's out there, latch on to him, because it's hard to find good operators in today's environment. You know, there's a lot of people that have benefited from the tailwinds that multifamily has had over the past 10 years. And I think given the fact that we're in a high interest rate environment, as we speak in August 2022, a lot of the tailwinds I don't think are are going to necessarily be there,
Yeah.
like it was in the past 5 to 10 years. And so I think right now more than ever is an important time to focus on the fundamentals and evaluate deals a little bit more deeper, right? Evaluate your operators too, because you can have a good deal, but if you have a bad operator, it's just not going to work. So that's our thought process when we look at deal flow.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, right? Is having the focus on the right team, because I agree, it's you can have a great asset, great market, but if you don't have the right team and if they don't have the right plan and they haven't, it's about having a proven track record really is going to help in this environment.
Yeah.
The lending market is tight. You're getting depending on which market you're in, cap rates are starting to expand a little bit. And so depending on what the scenario was on an acquisition, as things change, they can really turn a deal in the wrong direction, particularly if the leverage is too high, right? Or something like that.
Mhm.
So just, risk mitigation is a huge deal. I think you're right in that, because we're coming out of an environment where it's a little bit easier to get a win, then and we're moving into a more challenging space where everything is difficult, right? I mean, it's difficult to raise
Mhm.
capital. It's difficult to find a good deal, because sellers may or may not be willing to budge if they have a property that is cash flowing already. Then and so it's just a challenging environment to be in. So monitoring, as a passive investor, monitoring that the risk of the operator that you're interested in investing with, then that sort of gives you a bit of a buffer against what the volatility that we're seeing in the market right now. So
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah. 100% agree.
And what about like, so what types of assets are you guys kind of looking at the moment, and what's your focus? I guess you could say
Yeah.
on.
So, our focus right now is C plus B minus product in Baltimore City. And we've been working on expanding into other markets, surrounding markets that we can again build a team in. And we're affordable housing investors. I like to focus on solving a problem, because I know that all of the big businesses out there, across, let's say, across the US, and not go too big, all the good businesses out there likely have achieved massive success by solving a problem, right? You take a look at a business like Amazon, right? We literally can buy something on our phones and then have it like the same day. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like crazy,
Yeah.
to some degree, right? And so that's the same type of methodology that we apply into the real estate space. We understand that affordable housing is scarce, and we want to play in that space because we know there's a long runway for that type of product. And we're not ashamed to invite Section 8 tenants, and we're not ashamed to have that affordable housing community, because I mean that's where the money is at, right? You follow the
Mhm.
demand, the money would come.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's essentially the product type that we look for.
And you mentioned adaptive reuse earlier. Is that a strategy that you guys also considering, or is it primarily just existing assets and
Yeah.
BC?
So we haven't looked at any adaptive reuse. We are working on getting site control on a few lots for development. And that's primarily because the yields in existing multifamily are just, it's tough to get deals to pencil in today's environment. And so we're cash flow investors. Our investors love the opportunity to get those cash flow distributions on a quarterly basis. Development is obviously a little bit more, it's definitely more risky, right?
Yeah.
But the yield, I think the yield on cost is definitely more accretive in the development space compared to existing multifamily right now. So we're all about trying to just skin the cat in different ways. And again, our biggest focus is risk mitigation. So any way that we can do that, it's great for us for investment.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, so and let me ask you, so what side of the business kind of are you is your strength right now? Because I know you talk a lot about deal analysis and value creation on kind of the acquisition side as well. So what's your focus and what drives you
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
space?
So right now, within our deals, I've been working a lot within the construction management space. I do have an asset management background as well. And also the capital raising, right? Because the money is more very important in these deals. When I got
Yeah.
into real estate, people were saying, "Hey, if you found a good deal, money would come." But I've never had a bunch of money just fall into my lap when I had a
No.
good deal. I mean, someone please help me, right? So, um, yeah, that's kind of my focus now is the construction side of things and the capital raising side. But we're working on kind of scaling that back and just focus on strictly capital raising. And my partner is great at what he does. He's in IT and he loves the spreadsheets and all of the nitty gritty stuff. And we all can do each other's jobs, but I'm a proponent on doing what you're good at and what you enjoy, right? And asset management is something I am good at, but I don't necessarily enjoy a lot of the asset management stuff. So I like just talking to people, being in the field, touching things, talking to investors. I mean, that's what gets me excited, and yeah, that's what I focus on.
And you so do you still so you're really good at network because I know we've been to a conference together and we've been in a few networking events, and so do you focus kind of on both, I'll call it maybe both networks that you have, right, your previous network and your current, or kind of what are your thoughts on that,
Yeah,
just to yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah. So we've raised capital from NFL athletes and also busy professionals and business owners. And my goal is to transition into the fund model as well, specifically for athletes, entertainers, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there for athletes to park their capital into creative deals. And I at the end of the day, I'm just trying to be a resource, right? Whether we do business together or not, I just have that affinity because I know like how it was, and I know what they had to go through and I know what they're going through. And just want to be a resource and just provide guidance to different investors or guidance to different resources that they're interested in. And that's what it's about, right? It's about just giving back and being of service.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about the business as well is that we're connecting people with things that can add value to them, and so it's not something where we're not selling anything, right? We're just saying, hey, listen, here's an opportunity, or we know someone who has an opportunity, and what are you looking for? And so for me, it makes it a lot easier to have those kinds of conversations because I certainly don't have a past in being able to sort of create that dynamic out of thin air. So it's much easier for me to focus on connecting people with people or connecting people with opportunities and then
Yeah,
growing from there. So it just makes
yeah,
it easier to sort of have those conversations. I think, people always know kind of, okay, well, this is Yannik. I know exactly what he is looking for, the types of opportunities that he has available to him. I know who his network is. And so, if we have a conversation about an opportunity, they're already groomed, I'll call it, right? They already
hmm
know what you're doing.
yeah.
Um,
No, that's
so
that's
this,
really important because you want on the capital raising side, you definitely want your investors to be primed and know exactly what you're looking for, to also help them through the process as well, right? Because they might be busy, focused with their family, and they're trusting you to be their investment partner. And so, we pride ourselves on education first. And, if we're able to do business together, that's a plus.
yeah, and you mentioned the fund to fund model, which I think is you're right. It's so there are certain groups that they're very busy. They don't exactly have time to sort of talk about each asset, each single purpose sort of asset or entity, and deal. But instead, they want to know when you find an asset, what are the types of returns, what's your business plan, and then I think once you communicate that and convey that concept really well, which is the education piece, like you mentioned, now you can, help them understand, okay, well, we have a fund to where the types of deals that we're going to pursue will fit into this criteria and it'll fit into this box that I've already, communicated to you. So it certainly makes it easier to then say, well, hey, we have a fund where these are the kind of assets that we're going to go after. So, are you all shifting to that fund of fund right now, or you already have sort of both options available?
No, we haven't shifted to that as well. It's more of a long-term goal of mine. I think as we continue to grow as a company and do more and more deal flow, we're gonna find a time to kind of pivot into that space. But for now, we're just doing things on a GP level, on a deal by deal basis as well.
Okay. All right. Well, we're getting kind of close on time, but wanted to ask you for a kind of an actionable tip, right? So if there's a listener who right now is interested in investing in the commercial space, but they're hesitant for whatever reason, what's sort of an actionable tip that you could give that they might be able to do today to help them get started?
Yeah. So I think from an actionable tip perspective, I think the biggest thing that someone could do is just focus on their plan, I think, and focus on like what their end goal is. I'm a proponent of cash flow. I don't care what it is. It can be single family, it could be multifamily, it could be self-storage. My end goal is to create generational wealth and cash flow to create a life by design. And so however I get to that level, it doesn't matter to me. And I think that just comes with, being able to have clarity on your vision and knowing like, different aspects of how to get to that level. Right. So I think the biggest thing is just having that clarity and just having that focus as well, and just figuring out what your end goal is and just reverse engineering that back to where you are today. And, at the end of the day, it's all about cash flow.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree. I think it's about, set the goal. I love the reverse engineering concepts. Like, here's where I want to go. Okay, well, what would it take for me to get there? In 6 months, a year, 5 years, whatever it is, and then coming up with a plan that sort of fits their appetite and so in their timeline. So I think that's really powerful stuff. All right, so how can the listeners get in touch with you, and what are your socials?
Yeah. So again, I'm so happy I got to be a guest on the show. Again,
Thank you.
my company's name is Merlynn Acquisitions. That's MERLYNN Acquisitions. And feel free to contact us via the website. And we have an email address there that we can surely connect upon. And again, I'm happy to provide any resources or have a 10 to 15-minute conversation with anyone that's interested in getting into multifamily real estate. And I'm always for some reason popping up on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. So thank you
That's
so
a
much.
good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure I add your links to the show notes as well.
Yeah.
But look, man, hey, really appreciate you being on the show, and I think the listeners got a lot of content, a lot of value from it, so I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.